would you look at that? How you guys doing today? We have a awesome show lined up. Did you know that there's an opportunity here to get free money? And this is not in the Hex, Pulse Chain, etc. community. We're going to get into that, and it's actually in Ethereum. And it's not just like some, shitcoin fucking piece on the side for Ethereum. What if you could actually get free Ethereum? What if you could double your bags in Ethereum? We have the merge coming up. Well, what's going to happen with that? So we got some of that to talk about, which is going to be fascinating. I've got a couple articles to take a look at there. And when you take a look at it, it's so interesting. I'm very excited to see how that actually launches. Let's say hi to the chat real quick. And then we also have some Hedron stuff. So I think the way that I have been thinking about Hedron, I think I'm going to just modify the words a little bit because I think it's more clear on how we should approach or think about Hedron as this community to be more accurate, right? One of the ways you can improve your communication is by being more precise and clear with the language that you use and describing what that language means to people. And I think I have an opportunity to get better with that around Hedron and the T-share rate and the discount related to the T-shares in Hex terms versus Hedron terms, which is actually bullish for Hedron nonetheless. So I wanted to touch on that. And then also we've got Maxi, right? Maximus team is launching their team and then their 4 other tokens, right? They're launching 5 tokens. We'll get an update on how that's actually going, how many tokens are actually being minted on there. And I did some math this morning, right? I give a bicep for some math in the chat there. How much Hedron is going to be in this pool? Because it's taking remember the team token is getting all of the Hedron for all those other 4 pools, as well as the bigger pays better. So we're going to take a look at that and show like what their dashboard actually looks like. So if anybody's thinking about it or has any questions, we're going to try to get into that as well. But let's first touch on some of these chats here. Junior, what's good, bro? Thank you for stopping in. Tin Top. GRC is out. A little bit of what is this called? Housekeeping, I think. GRC is out. He is in Vegas right there. So you can jump over to Twitter. He will still be on Twitter, but I think he's out today and tomorrow. Unstoppable reached out on Twitter. I believe you may have sent me a link or somebody else sent me a link. I get confused. I got a bunch of people, but we're covering some of that as well. GRC might still be sleeping. I think they're 3 hours behind us. FYI, USDC is being removed from Binance. Got scared for a second. It was being removed from Ether or something. So this is, I read through that article because I saw people kind of like that whale bot thing tweeting about it. So we'll touch on this as well. It's not exactly what it says. It's more so just so Binance can operate more effectively. Hexpand, what's good? It has nothing to do with like bad, around USDC or anything. It's just strictly for Binance purposes. Hexagon Tattooer, what's Gucci? How you doing? Bullish is in the house today, so let me see the biceps in the chat for Bullish. He is here. He's helping set everything up. Peso, dude, I got a plane to catch. Just wanted to pop in. I hope you have a safe flight. I hope you enjoy your day. And let's see who else. Subo, convert some fiat to USDC. That way I got worried. Nope, careful. Morning, Par Excellence. Great to see you. Hexander, what's up, bro? We're holding the fort down. We're gonna show GRC what is up. We're gonna have more viewers, more comments, and more likes. So if you're not pressing the like button, make sure you had better press the like button. And without further ado, we're going to touch on the official wrapper of the show, some DeFi proof. Let's take us out of here.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 mind already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stay. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. Jim ready to send me to show you the way. Crypt in the morning. 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 Crypt in the morning.
What's up, everybody? Good to see everybody. And the good mornings here. Hope everybody is having a fantastic morning. I got really excited before coming on the show today because I found this article and then it's talking about how you and myself, like I might even change things up with providing liquidity to take advantage of this, on how we can actually get free money. Right? We talk about the free money in the realm of the Hex, Pulse Chain, and all the airdrops and all that shit that's happening, right? We're earning free Hedron. But there's other free money around, and you're like, well, I don't want to get involved with that. How do we know that shit is not going to get stolen? How do we know that the thing is not a rug pull? But what if it was something that was so like familiar, so good that we all already know about? Like Ethereum. This is from, I think this is from yesterday, and I wanted to just read through. This is from Crypto Briefing. We're going to have a merge right around the 15th or the 16th or 17th or whatever, assuming that there's no delays here. Good morning, Chad and T-Bird. And I'm not going to even try to say that. Matthias Vost. How you doing? Flat Earth. Hex Hodl. Wascoochie. Now, currently, Ethereum is proof of work, right? So we got these computers, these miners who have a boatload of vested interest. That means they're just tied to something effectively in proof of work, right? They put tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars into mining equipment for Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is switching to proof of stake. So what's going to happen to the miners? Well, this article gets into it, so I just wanted to go through and read part of this out and then talk about what we might actually be able to do to take advantage of this. Because there's free money in crypto all the time. I think Richard Hart mentions this quite often, but there's free money in crypto all over the place, and you just have to look for it and then find it. So this goes on to say, a group of anonymous developers plans to launch a Ethereum proof of work fork after the merge next week. Now, if you come down here, it says a coalition of developers and miners plan to fork the Ethereum blockchain after the merge. And you're like, well, is this just guessing? Is this just like actually going to happen? Or is this just, hearsay kind of thing? And by the way, stay tuned because we're going to get into Hedron. We're going to get into Maxi and get into an update with Team and all of their tokens. There's a boatload of Hex that has been taken off the market because of what they're actually doing. But wait till we get to the bottom of this article. Binance and several other exchanges, including one exchange which already has a placeholder for the proof of work Ethereum. Remember, Ethereum, as we know it today, is a fork of the original Ethereum. It's called Ethereum Classic. When I think it was the MakerDAO back in maybe 2016 got hacked, they decided to fork Ethereum, right? So Ethereum Classic actually was Ethereum. The Ethereum we know it today, after the merge, is going to change from proof of work to proof of stake. And we have more confirmatory data. That just means like positive data pointing this direction later on. So Binance and several other exchanges, as we get through here, are actually supporting this already. After Ethereum is forked, addresses holding ETH will receive an equal amount of Ethereum W, which is what they're just currently calling it right now, on the forked blockchain, preparing for the merge. Ethereum is switching to proof of stake, but miners are planning a proof of work fork. A group of anonymous developers supported by many large Ethereum miners, right? Like clearly they're going to be supported by the miners because they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars tied up in mining equipment, long-term leases on, warehouses and or buildings that they have purchased, is expected to hard fork the Ethereum blockchain after next week's merge, keeping a version of the network running on the current proof of work consensus mechanism, while the main blockchain transitions over to proof of stake. The fork, commonly referred to as Ethereum proof of work, will share the same transaction history as the main Ethereum network, but start creating its own blocks after the merge update goes live. Because the proof of work fork starts from the Ethereum network's pre-merge state, all token balances and smart contracts will be carried over. Yesterday when I read this, this is fascinating, guys. This is super interesting. Bobby Davis, what's Gucci and what's on the news? How you doing? Perfect. I was about to go through that article. Awesome. We will get into it. And this line right here is fascinating. How high can Hedron get by the end of the year? We'll talk about that in a minute. Memes team, how you doing? I imagine it'll be quite vulnerable to 51% attack, at least initially. Not sure I have a great understanding of the 51% attack yet. So I don't think it's going to be probably in a lot of people's best interest to do a 51% attack on something that is just made up out of thin air, because then they lose their own bags, because then nobody's going to actually trust that network. But could be definitely something more to look into. Hexycat, yes, running the show. GRC is out of town, so I would like everybody's help here to make sure that this show is better, right? So let's get the like button, press that like button, take a second, press the share button, share this out on Twitter and tag me so we can get this thing going. Cars packed, Sam, driving to Florida. Hey, let's do a meetup when we're here. Now, let's get back into this article. Merge, pre-state, all tokens. Remember this. What is something else about this? Think about this, guys. Who else says this? Somebody that you're aware of in this community says this, right? All token balances and smart contracts will be carried over. What is this? I want to hear this in the chat. What else is going on that is doing this? I didn't think about this yesterday when I read through this article. This effectively is a preview for Pulse Chain with the massive free airdrop. Yes, bullish, correct. This effectively is a preview. This effectively is a preview of Pulse Chain. All token balances and smart contracts will be carried over. What? That's awesome. So, because I was thinking for myself, just to be straightforward here, I was thinking maybe I'll actually hold a little bit of Ethereum. Currently, right now, I just have like a very small amount of Ethereum. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll increase that a little bit just to see what I think about this, because I do believe that there's a lot of vested interest in the proof of work. So the plausibility of a proof of work fork of Ethereum seems highly likely, especially when we get into the Aave, what's going on with Aave, the lending protocol on Ethereum. And then when you see that all tokens, so that means if you've got, a bunch of Hex, a bunch of Maxi, a bunch of Team already minted, you can get a copy of that shit on proof of work. What? This is fucking awesome. I wish I'd thought about this yesterday. This is insane. This is going to be so wild. I completely agree. Okay, so let's get back into reading here, and I'd like to hear what you guys thought. Does this seem logical? Right? We've got multiple arrows pointing in this direction. So let's finish reading through this. This means that everyone holding ETH on chain will end up having an equal balance of Ethereum work on the proof of work power unit right here. This chain. The ETHW will be native only to the proof of work fork and represent an entirely different asset, just like classic Ethereum versus the current Ethereum we have. For many Ethereum believers, the planned proof of work fork is of little interest as an investment. I don't think this is true personally. Virtually all DeFi, NFT, and network infrastructure protocols have publicly announced that they will support the proof of stake chain, leaving the proof of work fork in a tough spot. Upon its launch, decentralized exchanges on the fork will likely seek to function. That's going to be interesting. How I haven't thought about this. How is this going to affect Uniswap? I'm not exactly sure. I don't think anything's really going to change much. If there is a Ethereum W, right, for the proof of work chain as a new token, that could be interesting. And decentralized stablecoins like USDC and Tether will be worthless. Now, let me ask you guys, do you believe what Richard Hart says? Right, we're getting a preview of what he's doing with Pulse Chain here. Do you think that a USDC is a US organization, right? Circle. Do you think that having USDC, like if I get, $10,000 worth of USDC that they now effectively say is worth zero, do you think that they might have some lawsuits? Do you think it would be in their best interest to, because they effectively seem to be the one, a quasi federal government, or quasi Fed would be a better way of putting that, and being in control of like the dollar in crypto. So do you think that it would actually be in Circle's best interest to have these be valid, right, on this new fork? Because if these are valid on the new fork, right, then your hex is going to be valid over there. Everything else is going to be valid over there. This is very, very fascinating. We're getting a preview. Is this going to fuck up Pulse Chain? What do you guys think? Is this going to fuck up Pulse Chain if this goes through? Right, everybody's got to double on all their shit. Right, and some of this shit is going to be worthless, as they're kind of like alluding to here. I think it's still going to hold some type of value, assuming that there's a bridge built at some point, which I would, if anybody who has large bags on both sides, they're going to have a financial incentive to do that, right? Potentially causing mass liquidations and breaking many DeFi protocols. Despite the proof of work having to start from square one, which is not accurate, there is one token that will likely hold some value on the ETHW. Like the 2016 DAO hack, which I just mentioned, that created Ethereum Classic, the proof of work will also have some loyal supporters who continue to develop it, creating demand for its token. Conversely, those who don't believe the fork will go anywhere may want to sell their what's called tokens after the merge to pocket some extra gains. But what's the best way to ensure you receive ETHW? Well, here we're about to get into that. There's several exchanges that have actually said that they're going to support this, which gives us credence that this is actually going to happen. I want to know, what do you guys think? Right, we've been talking about Hedron like crazy. We've been talking about Maxi yesterday and that ecosystem, but right, think about this, like a small premium, right, for Maxi and the stuff that they're doing. Cool, awesome, very helpful, growing the community, great fellas, right? A Hedron, big undervalued in my opinion, but this could be massive, an instant doubling of your bag. Now, is it going to hold value? We've had this conversation between Ethereum and Pulse. Is your shit going to hold value? There's a lot of nuance there. I can run through a circular or like a full example of how a bridge would work, so you get an idea of this. But this is interesting. I want to read through some of these comments because you guys are freaking awesome. Chad, okay, so dog days. If tokens move to ETH POS, will this not make the POW chain empty? Well, dog days. How does it work for Pulse, right? Because we in this community are this community, by the way, this community, not other communities, this community is the community that is actually best prepared to take advantage of this. Why do I say that? Because think about what probably most of the people who are watching this right now have at least spent a tiny modicum of time thinking about. What happens when Pulse Chain launches? Right? Think dog days. Think about what happens when Pulse Chain launches. The tokens on Ethereum are not going away. You're just literally taking this and you're making a photocopy of this. That's all. You're just making an exact replica of everything that's on Ethereum. So we've talked about this. We've talked about how this is influenced, what actually happens in this community. So you just have two tokens on both sides. Is there going to be parity is a better question. And I'll run through an example of this in a second. It's not necessarily going to hold for all tokens, but it could. I could see it taking some, this is from Chad, what's Gucci, Chad? I could see some taking some steam away from the biggest airdrop in history marketing narrative for PLS. Yeah, I think that we, as in the show today, this show on 9/6 is the only place that in this entire community that is talking about this, Chad. So you guys should take a second, share this out with other people. Tag me on Twitter when you do that. I don't think it will because PLS, bigger block size, fees, etc. There is an argument to be made that it's better tech, but without adoption, which we will have to have on day one, it means nothing. This is true, but I just the counter argument is, so I'm not saying that this is not accurate because I agree. You need to have adoption, right? We need to have fuckers actually interested in buying this stuff. So what Bullish is saying here, what do we think? What do we think about POW, right? Proof of work Ethereum chain. There is a vested interest there. We've got mining companies and people with tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars tied to mining equipment, right? They are the base, right? And then there's going to be other people who are like, they don't believe in global warming, right? Like I might be in that camp, I might not be in that camp, right? But that think that that's BS, right? Because when you look at Merge, it's not really doing much, right? It's setting the foundation to build something with far cheaper gas, right? I think that comes with sharding or whatever it is. But I do think that there's already, and probably bigger than this community, right? If you figure this community is a couple 100,000 people in the, Hex type of ecosystem kind of thing, a couple 100,000 people. What do you guys think? Do you think that the Ethereum proof of work chain has more than a couple 100,000 people? I don't know. I personally think that it might have more than a couple 100,000 people personally. But great point though. Great point. Torin, Pulse still better, but this will take some narrative and liquidity. 1,000% agree. I think Bullish was mentioning that too. Proof of work doesn't mean it's going to be cheaper. You know what I mean? And the block size and the things that Bullish was saying, I completely agree with both of you guys. I definitely think that we're giving a preview of what's happening. I'd love to hear RH take with Hex and proof of work. Oh yeah. So let's run through an example. So memes team, let's run through an example on this in a second. Agree, Bullish. Chris, you don't think that there's going to be enough supporters of proof of work with all the miners involved and that kind of thing and developers that would prefer there? Fork it all. I agree. Let's get it going. Fire for Bullish. Bullish, a lot of people agree with you, it looks like. This fork won't be as robust as the Pulse fork. If it fails in some way, that would play into the Pulse join narrative. But so the idea though, I agree with this, unsuitable. However, think about this. Ethereum proof of work has already been working far longer than proof of stake has. And if you have people who are conservative, they've got a lot of money that they've made in proof of work, and now it's switching to proof of stake. In psychology, there's something called the status quo, right? So the status quo just means that people tend to stay with the status quo of whatever it is. That's why you have opt in or opt out for like 401ks and stuff like that. Because if it's an opt out, you get higher participation in this kind of thing because it's the status quo is one way to look at this. And the people who are conservative, who already have giant bags and already know that there's years and years and years of successful execution on proof of work, do you think that they're going to be like, think like my dad has thought about this type of stuff when he talks about new technology coming out, whether it's a phone or something else? Hey, I'll wait till V2 comes out, right? I'm not going to buy the first generation of this phone. I'll wait till version 2 of this phone comes out because I guarantee this one's going to have issues. We've seen this time and time and time and time again. Is this going to be the place? Is this going to happen with proof of stake? I don't know. But I do believe that there's people with a lot of money who think that that narrative that I just said. I mean, we're all having a dialogue here and trying to understand like what's going on. RH Max and the Hizzy gonna either be ETH Classic 2.0 or weirdly popular. RH, what do you think about getting a free copy of your Hex? What do you think about getting a free copy of your Hex, bro, on proof of work as well as proof of stake? Fucking crazy. JA, does Ethereum have Pulse X? Even with the copy, will there be an exchange ready? I do believe, no, there's no Pulse X, right? But it's like there's a bunch of different dexes. The most popular is obviously Uniswap. Now, I do believe that we're probably not the only ones thinking about this, right? Who else would have a vested interest to think about this, right? Exactly. JA, awesome freaking point. I love it. I love the comments, guys. JA, who else is going to have a vested interest in this? Does it make sense for Uniswap to be ready to support this? Because it's in Uniswap's best interest to support this, right? Because if they support this, then that allows them to grow their brand, right? And people will support people go to the place where all the liquidity is, right? So it makes, in my opinion, and please, if you have a different opinion, share it in the comments. Take a second, press a share button, that little arrow, share it over on Twitter, tag me at Sam_A_Stolt. Let's get some more feedback on this. Let's try to get a better understanding of what's actually taking place. But I think that like Sushi and the other Ethereum dexes along with Uniswap have a interest, like it behooves them to do it because it's beneficial for them to support the proof of work chain. In my opinion, I'd love to know if somebody thinks contrary to that. Surge, what's Gucci, bro? If POS not be listed by Coinbase and not recognized by big exchanges is failed project. I don't agree with that because look at Hex, right? Would you say Hex is a failed project? Hex is not listed on Coinbase or other exchanges. So I don't think that's going to hold. But cool thing is here that thank you for putting me back into this direction. I'm going to come back to some of these comments in just a second. I see some from Bullish and RH Max, but let's read on this. So just because this ties in perfectly, it's a great transition, Serge. So thank you. Centralized exchanges. The simplest way to play the merge is by depositing ETH into, and by the way, before I finish reading this, I'm not saying you should do this because there is a second option, right? So don't go like FOMO and do something silly. There's another option below. By depositing ETH into a centralized exchange that has announced it will support POW fork. The list below is not exhaustive, but covers the main exchanges that have put out statements. We're not like these exchanges. It makes sense for them to support this as well. Polina, whatever this exchange is, has already listed a ETHW placeholder token and will list and support trading for this fork when it launches, including crediting users' accounts 1-for-1 and the ratio they hold. Like, this is awesome. This exchange. Now, the biggest one right here, Binance. I don't know if this is an actual exchange or is part of Binance. Mexi Global, Gateway IO, and FTX. Okay, so FTX and Binance, like two gigantic behemoths, right? CZ and Sam, whatever that dude's name is. He's got a great name though. Sam will support an ETH POW fork and also plan to credit users with 1-for-1. And then there's several other ones here. Coinbase and Kraken have said they will review an ETH POW fork like any other asset, right? So they are not necessarily listing there, but we already have it for Binance, the largest exchange in the world. This is crazy, guys. Now, how else could you get your free copies of shit? Let's see. Let's finish reading this real quickly. Currently, it appears that these exchanges and FTX look the most certain to give users their equivalent ETHW, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So you can do this through custody. This is what we like in this community. We want a non-custodial wallet. It should be the easiest way to access your ETH and merge. I don't know why they don't put this above this garbage here, unless it's part of like, you know, I don't want people to put their money on exchanges. Basically, if you read through this, it says that you need to add the chain to MetaMask, which as we get through this, make sure you press the subscribe button because we'll be covering this. I'll be covering it, whether DRC wants to. I'm assuming he'll want to, but if he doesn't, you can check it out on my channel. Also, tomorrow night, I'll be covering more stuff on Hedron in depth, 6 p.m. EST, if you'd like to catch that. But basically, you just got to add the proof of work Ethereum chain network to your MetaMask. And there'll be videos on how to do that. Or you can DM people on Twitter, or just post it on Twitter, and eventually somebody's going to answer you and show you how to do it. You got like there's the URL, the name of the chain, chain ID, and all that kind of stuff. And then it should be in there as it actually launches. So fascinating stuff. We're getting effectively a preview. And what gives us even more credence to this? Like what adds even more validity that this has a high probability of actually taking place, that we're going to get a copy, just like we will with Pulse, right? Who wants a double and then wants another double, guys? Cray shit. But I'll show you that in just a second here. Let me read through a couple more of these. Bullish, what's Gucci? If no transactions on ETH proof of work, the miners will have nothing to do. That's going to be the biggest issue. Interesting. I agree. Will there be enough people over there? The real question is, if proof of work does hang on and become somewhat popular, does RH support it and still not want to see cheap hex anywhere? I think he's going to do what's in his best interest, and I think that is probably supporting it, because he's going to piss off a lot of people if he doesn't. Personally, my take on that. Yeah, bullish. I'm not thinking this will be well-coordinated fork, at least at first. So there will be demand for how long? It's fascinating. What an awesome show today, guys. It probably won't fall outright. It'll be what is classic Ethereum versus Ethereum, right? Somebody post that in the chat there for me, please. Similar to BT Cash launch. Let's see what else is in here. All on board. Pulse Train. I think this is going to be a great preview, and there's going to probably be some good learnings from this too. Think about what RH could learn on how to do things better when this launches. If ETH 2.0 becomes messy crypto to plummet, hey, I wouldn't be surprised. Sam is already too far removed. Bullish. We done Bow Wow talk. Yeah, I'm already down that fucking rabbit hole. But we'll transition in a minute here. Had to pause the stream, playing at 2x to catch up. Awesome. Okay, so let's show what else is pointing in this direction. What I mean by that is, when I talk to people about reaching, say, their fitness goals, whether it's dropping body fat or putting on muscle or healing themselves, they're like, they want to know what the quick way out is. What is the fast solution, right? But you guys, because you have functioning gray matter, understand that for the best things in life, you got to put in work, period. That's it, no matter what. And the more things that you can point in that direction allow you to achieve fat loss faster. So if you're just like, okay, cool, I'm going to stop eating 3 donuts for breakfast every day. Fucking awesome. Fantastic. But then what if you decide to also increase your water intake? Cool. Now you have 2 arrows pointing in one direction. Now, what if you decide to make sure you get the same amount of sleep every single night, right? And a consistency with what time you go to bed and what time you get up, and go for walks every single day, and start to improve your mental state and how you think about things, right? And which can reduce your overall stress in your life. And now you have 4 or 5 different arrows pointing in the same direction. Well, this stake has the same exact thing. When we look at Aave and what's happening with Aave, the more arrows we have pointing at this proof of work fork, the higher probability, in my opinion, that this type of thing will happen. DeFi giant Aave stops loaning Ether ahead of Ethereum merge. The Aave community is worried that users may increasingly borrow ETH ahead of the merge, exposing the protocol to liquidity issues, and injecting volatility into Lido's staked ETH market. Okay, so let's think about this for a second. This article I have not read here, which we can get into, but let's just think about this because we have other stuff to talk about instead of reading through this article. If I know, keeping the ship afloat, yes. If I know that there's going to be a fork for Ethereum, right? I know that I say if I'm on the inside and I understand what's happening and I know that there's going to be a fork in there, how could I increase my exposure? Well, you could hold ETH, right? Because you think that that's probably going to be the one that holds the best value out of the tons and tons of tokens that get copied over onto the proof of work chain. What's another way that you could increase your exposure to amplify your returns? If you don't understand leverage, that might have not made sense to you, but effectively you can borrow more ETH, because then you have more ETH exposure, which means when there's doubling, you have the doubling, but then you also doubled your exposure. So you could have a 2 or 3x. I'm sorry, a 3 or 4x. How does this work? Well, say if I have 1,000 ETH, right? Well, what if I went through and I took that 1,000 ETH and I put it into a lending protocol and borrowed 50% of that value? So now I have 1,500 ETH, right? And now I get a double on both chains, right? So what happens? I had 1,000 ETH. I put it, I doubled, I got 50% more. So now I'm at 1,500 ETH proof of stake. Then I get a copy of all that shit on the proof of work chain, right? Which is 1,500 additional. Now my total proof of work and proof of stake ETH holdings are 3,000. So I went from a 1,000 ETH position to a 3,000 ETH position that is split between proof of work and proof of stake. Hopefully that makes sense to people. And that is effectively what is happening here, in my opinion, right? Because people want to increase the exposure so that they can increase their returns on here, which is super fascinating. Looks like I'm going to swap my USDC, huh? Potentially, depends on if you believe. Do you think Circle, which is the company behind USDC, is going to support this, right? If they don't support it, do you think that what Richard Hart says is accurate, that they're going to get a bunch of lawsuits and they're going to play this out in their mind? Would I rather have lawsuits out there related to this, because there's going to be people with a lot of money and the know-how and the resources to sue them, right? Or do you think that they're just going to be like, fuck it, let's just support this thing because we want to grow our brand of USDC. We want to grow our brand of Circle so that we are the primary stable coin, right? That's the moves that they're making by auditing and all this other kind of stuff, adding transparency. So I'm not sure if holding USDC is going to be great or not as time goes on. I think DAI is probably better, in my personal opinion. Torin, so what will you do with Hex, Hedron, etc. on proof of work, guys? Please let us know. Torin, the fucking awesome question. I think we'll be able to bridge this over. Let's talk about a bridge for 1 second, and then we'll segue this into some updates for the Maxi, Team, Deci, etc. tokens that are launching. Lots and millions of hacks that has been tied up. What happens during a bridge? We'll just use the Pulse X example here. If you have hacks on Ethereum and now but you can relate this to, what's up, GRC? How you doing, bro? If you have hacks on Ethereum and you want to bring that over to Pulse or the POW Ethereum, you can bridge this through, right? So you take your Ethereum hacks, you put it into the bridge. And what does the bridge do? The bridge has a smart contract that captures that. And then they're effectively going to mint you out wrapped hacks on the other side. So this wrapped hex is now on Pulse chain. Why does that hold value? Because if the Ethereum hex is say for 4 cents, and then over here on Pulse chain, the Pulse chain hex is, say, 2 cents, then what does somebody have an incentive to do? Well, the bridge holds the Ethereum hex, right? So if I have 2-cent hex over here, I can buy 2-cent hex, bring it through the bridge, and get immediate double because it's 4 cents over here, right? So that's why that will hold the value. But then what about the native, right? Because then you have Ethereum, currently proof how we're at, and then we're going to go to proof of work, right? So we have both of those two pieces. What happens then? Well, let's play the ratio thing again with Pulse Hex, because that's one more familiar with people. Ethereum hex gets bridged in. Now you have wrapped hex on the Pulse chain over here. And we just went through why that's going to maintain its price parity with the Ethereum side. Because if not, it will go back through minus fees, and it should be about the same price. Otherwise, there's an opportunity for profit. Now, if you look at the ratio between hex that was copied, the copy of hex on Pulse, and the wrapped hex from Ethereum, if you look at that ratio, and if it's, say, 1-for-2, meaning the one that is supported by the bridge, the wrapped hex from Ethereum on Pulse chain, if that one is one of those for 2 of the copy on Pulse, then what can happen? Again, I could bridge over 1,000 hex on this from Ethereum, bridge that over, or 10,000 or whatever number you want to do, and I get a double in my hex bag. So that means I could I take 10,000 hex from Ethereum, bring it through the bridge. We already understand how that's going to hold its value. Now, if it's trading 1-for-2 versus the copy, right, then that means I could take a 10,000 of wrapped Ethereum hex on Pulse chain, swap it on PulseX for the PulseX hex. Now I have 20,000 of these, and I can just stake them in the protocol, right? So I get a much higher yield. So how is this going to work out with the proof of work Ethereum and the proof of stake Ethereum? I don't know. We understand how this is going to work out for Hex and Pulse. How is this going to work? Excuse me. How is this going to work with proof of work and proof of stake? I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. But now we should have a little 5-second switch arrow as we change topics here, Bullish. But we're going to switch it up, and we're going to dive into some stuff related to team, right? Maximus. What is going on with that entire launch, right? They're got a 21-day launch. How is it going? Well, let's take a look here. Dipcatcher put together a dashboard that tracks all this stuff, right? Because yesterday we had some opposing views about how much is actually being minted for team, and we got some clarification. So let's take a look at this. This is the dashboard that Dipcatcher put together. Perpetual pools. Remember, this is the 1 year, this is the 3 year, this is the 7 year, and this is the 10 year. And then after we get through this, I also have put together a estimate based upon the numbers in here, because it tells us the T-share. So once we know the T-shares, then we know how much Hedron is going to be printed. Where does the Hedron go? To the team stakers. So we're going to talk about that in a second as well. But first, let's get through with this. You can mint Base, Trio, Lucky, etc. by putting Hex into their smart contract for the next 20 days. This is a decent amount. Let's refresh this and just make sure that these numbers are updated. This is a decent amount, right? 40 million, roughly. For over 40 million, Hex has been taken off the market by this, right? And this is just the beginning. And this is the 440 T-shares, 550, 800, and 2,200, right? Like the 10 year is the one that's been the most popular, right? There's a lot of Hex that comes off the market. What are you guys minting any of these things? I'm curious. I'd like to know what you think, because if you have any of these or Hex or anything, we're going to get copies, assuming that POW fork is real. There's been a total of 20.5 million team minted. So that means that you have 40. Let's add this up real quick. You guys can't see my calculator, but we have 8.5 plus 8 roughly, plus 8 again, plus 17. So we've got 41 and a half, roughly 41.5 million of these tokens here have been minted, and these numbers are going to go up. Maybe it gets up to 50 million, but that means that there's a double in terms of the effect on here. What do I mean by that? Well, actually, it's going to be greater than a double, right? Because they have the amount that's staked and then the amount that is liquid. So I'd like to know what you guys, if you know this or not, but when you look at Hedron in Etherscan, it's like 107 or 108 trillion, I think, tokens. And on the Etherscan for the team token, it shows 5 million of these tokens, right? 5 million is because these are effectively burnt, right? So does the supply get reduced on Etherscan for Hedron, exactly the way this is happening for Etherscan? Let me know, because that would be interesting. I don't know if the semantics of how shit is burnt, if it's just sent to like a null address, if that counts as a burn, or what is the trigger to reduce the Etherscan amount here. But think about this. You have 15 million maxi effectively here have been taken off the market. I'm sorry, 20 million maxi have been taken off the market. 15 million of that is now team, right? That has been staked. So you have 41 million hex that is going to be earning Hedron every single day, right? For one year, 3 year, 7 year, etc. That's all going to this 15 million here. So nearly a 3x increase in this. So let's take a look at this and see what this might actually play out in terms of dollar amounts, because I find that fascinating. Let me just take a gander at some of these chat here. GRC, I was fucking hammered last night with funding Jim and dollar costs. Hell yeah, hope you're having a blast and everybody's having a blast out there. AJ, looks like you're having a great time. Yes, I've seen some of those pictures. I hope everybody's having a blast out there. Let's listen and talk later. Keep for real. GRC with all the bromance pictures. Hey, baby, this is my girlfriend, guys. Make sure you press the like button. Thank you, sweetheart. Make sure you press that like button. Let's get those likes up. We have 96 people watching currently. The best thing can happen for PLS to ETH 2.0 fork fail on big way or having issues like Solana token, finger crossed. But think about this, Serge. If proof of work Ethereum fork fails or has issues, what do you think that's going to do? It's going to cast doubt into people's minds around Pulse, right? I wouldn't see why I wouldn't. JA, it sounds like 1-for-2 stock split. So will that dilute the overall value of both Hex and I mean, if we're going to get a double and then we're going to get another double, right? We're going to get a double with proof of work from Ethereum and then get another double for what happens with Pulse. I don't know. I think we're going to see a very, very volatile time in crypto. And if this is successful, I think overall in a macro sense, we could see lower prices, kind of like what you're saying for the 2-for-1s. And overall, we'll see a reduction in price. I wouldn't be surprised. Tesla just did this. They had their another stock split, right? I don't know, but if this is successful, there's going to be copycats of this, right? Richard Hart's basically copying Binance, but adding in the piece of all the copies from Ethereum, right? So we're going to see more. We're going to see more copycats this happen, and if you're in crypto and you're paying attention, probably a lot more opportunity. What's up with team staking? All I did was mint. I did not see an option to stake. The place to stake, I think, is team.maximus.something to stake there. I'll pull that up. Team.maximus.cash. Team.maximus.cash, which we'll pull up in a second. Thank you both for reminding me there. Twerking. Maximus is a failed project. Maximus is a failed project, never going to be even close to return to Hedron, a waste of time. I do think Hedron has higher returns here in that regard. Same, keep focusing on what could have been and you'll be left behind. Things are coming. Pulse chain, interesting, right? Hamburger menu, bullish. Cannot move forward while looking in the rearview mirror. I don't know what that means. Question, would it be better to mint or buy team directly? Ooh, let's talk about that. It costs the same, but the fact they're the wallet minted team could be beneficial. It's possible, right? So you have, if they're effectively the same price right now, when I looked at it yesterday or this morning, they weren't the same price. What does this mean? Like, so you could take, say, $90 worth of Maxi, and say that equates to, say, 10,000 tokens. You could take 10,000 Maxi tokens and mint 10,000 team tokens. One way you get to check this is you could go through and purchase on Uniswap, right? So if you could take your 10,000 Maxi and you could purchase 10,050 team tokens, right? And you're getting them at a discount, and you can go through and you can play that back and forth. Yesterday, team tokens were actually selling at a discount, which when you think about the team token, should it sell at a discount? I'm curious. What do you guys think? I think it should, right? If you're pulling 50% of the value that was effectively supporting this token, right? Maxi, where does 50% of the value goes? It goes into their pocket, which I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. But 50% of the value of Maxi, right? So if there is $1 million worth of Maxi that's dumped into the team contract, and then they pull 50% for themselves, that means that the team token could sell at a big discount, right? Why wouldn't it? Right? If you put into the base contract and there was 10 million hex in there, and then they were like, hey, 50% of the hex that goes into the base contract actually goes in our pockets, then the base contract should sell for at a big discount. And that's effectively what's happening with Maxi. I think the piece that a lot of people are not fully like factoring in is the Hedron and the bigger pays better bonus, right? Which I put together this little spreadsheet so we could kind of take a gander at this and maybe put a little bit more thought into it. So this morning, when I put these in here, this is how much hex was utilized to mint these tokens over here, which translates into this many number of T shares. So that would equal this number, this many B shares, right? It's just times 1,000. And then we have, right, base 365 days. This is 3 years, right? So that's 1095. Lucky is 7 years. And then Deci is 10 years, right? So that's what these days are for each one of these. That would equate to these numbers for Hedron, right? This is how much Hedron is being minted in there for each one of these contracts. But we're going to get, if you think longer term on this, it's going to be very interesting. That's going to equate to about 11 trillion. That's what this number is here. 11 trillion Hedron at today's price. At today's price, as of this morning when I put this together, 50554 for Hedron. The USD value would be $60,000. Now, this actually should be 14. At today's value, this is $60,000. If you take that, right, and you divide it by the Maxi price, that would be, give us an idea of the amount of yield in here, right? Maxi price as yesterday is averaged about 9 cents. That's what this number is right here. And there was, if we pull this up again, the amount of staked team here is 14.5 million of them, right? So let's go in here and actually change this, update this number here to 5. That's how much of staked value has gone into this token. And then if you look at the total dollar amount, it's about 20 million. Okay, so if we did decide to update this to 20 million, whoops, this comes out to be 1.8 million, right? So if you look at the return on here, how much would this actually be divided by this? Is 3% on an annual basis. But this is not on an annual basis. And here's the thing that a lot of people are missing on here. What happens in this contract here? At year 1, Do you believe that this is going to grow, or do you think that this is going to go down in terms of the amount of hex in that contract? Well, do you think demand is going to increase for it, or do you think demand is going to decrease? I don't know. I'm curious to know what you guys think. If you think demand is going to increase, then the amount of hedron going to these pools over time will actually increase. And what do you, if demand increases, then what do you expect to happen with hedron price? Right? I believe right now it is about a 10x undervalued. So I think that we can see a 10x increase potentially in the price of hedron. And that's not as in tomorrow, but over the course of a period of time. And if hex goes up in value because demand is going up in value because the perpetuals are increasing the number of people utilizing them, right? This is how all of this would play out, right? You're not going to necessarily see an increase in demand for the perpetuals if you don't see a demand in hex, right? If you see demand in hex going down, then you would believe that it would make sense that perpetuals are going to see a decrease in demand. So if you think that perpetuals are going to have an increase in demand, then that's also assuming you're going to have an increase in demand for hex, which would mean that the amount of hedron that team is earning is going to increase in time. And if that increases in time, then there's a fixed supply of team, but there's not a fixed supply of the perpetuals. So the perpetuals, that supply can go up, meaning the rewards earned on team go up, right? And then what actually happens to the team supply? It's going to go down slightly over time. Why? Just because people are going to lose their shit, right? People are going to lose their tokens. Because they're going to lose their address. It's going to get like their seed phrases. They're going to lose that stuff. So it's going to be, missing in perpetuity there. So that's one piece that people are completely missing. And on top of this, you also have the piece with dog days. You have the piece with the bigger pays better bonus. Dog days perpetuals have a great use case as a staking ladder. They are here to stay. I think they're definitely going to stay here. I'm personally don't have any desire to mint any of them, but I'm sure that there's a lot of other people that could, because if you have the perpetuals, right, what's the objective of that, right? You could mint the perpetuals, which has an advantage over an HSI, because if you mint the perpetuals, then you want to get rid of a portion of your stake. You can get rid of a portion by just selling some of your perpetuals, but it's just doesn't have a big enough value pool in terms of upside for me. I think that there's better options out there personally. Fundy Gym has a spaces right now. Awesome. We'll be wrapping up in a second and we'll tell everybody to jump over there. Everyone misses you, GRC. You're going to be welcomed back in a little bit. The last thing that I wanted to touch on here was the hedron piece. When we look at hedron, just staking every 90 ICOSA tokens every month from 1 billion stake hedron, you will have return over 40K USD in ICOSA tokens and 400K in hedron token in 2 years. If Hex do 25 cents and hedron do 100x, yes, I agree. That's why I think hedron has a much higher potential than like the team Deci stuff. I'm still just acquiring hedron at this point. I think that there's far too much of a value prop there, but I do think that there's an opportunity to better understand the discount, right? We have the price of a T-share in terms of hex. How many hex does it take to buy one T-share? Then we have the, let's see here. We need a stream to deep dive and include profitability results, audit, etc. You on LP. Yes. Hex gangbanger. Base is kind of crazy. Gets hex yield from stake, gets LP rewards for base hex pair, and gets the team base plus 3x bonus. Team base. That's new information for me. I've never heard any of that before. We're doing a stream tomorrow night, Chad, on this topic. But so we have the price of a T-share in hex terms, right, about 8,000, and then we have the price of a T-share in hedron terms, right? And it's not that you won't be able to necessarily buy them at a discount, because I don't think you probably will be able to buy the T-shares at a discount. And what if Hedron price does not reach that level? Well, all that means is that the returns in ICOSA are going to change, and the supply of Hedron is going to change. I think there's about a 9x additional room for Hedron to move up in price before it closes that gap. So say by November 13th or 14th, Hedron does another 2x or 3x or 4x during that time, but not getting to the total 9x. What does that do? Well, it's going to affect ICOSA and it's going to affect Hedron. Let's look at Hedron first. What it's going to do with Hedron is the supply of Hedron that is burnt is going to drastically increase, right? Assuming that we can't buy anything at a discount in an efficient market, right? Because if you're bringing on a new person, or if you personally want to buy more T-shares, are you going to buy a T-share that is more expensive in Hex, or are you going to buy one that's cheaper in Hedron? So we'll assume that those prices are going to be about equivalent. And if that's the case, then the amount of Hedron is burnt is gigantic, which is going to affect the burn rate, which is utilized for the calculation of how much ICOSA is actually minted into those pools. So it's going to affect that over time. Fascinating stuff. I'd like to do a deep dive with somebody on some of these more of these semantics. Serge, we need Alex on a stream on Silver Antidote to tell us how much it is worth. 4,892 HSIs as of today in burned Hedron. Yes. Serge, I think somebody shared this with me on Twitter, but I think there's a tracker that somebody built to show us how many of these HSIs are built. If the data is there, I can probably put together a spreadsheet on that. So if you guys want to share that, or go over and tell me on Twitter, there's a link down below. RH always says he called the tops. Does Warren Buffett ever say he called the tops? When they show you who they are, believe it. I don't think that is Warren Buffett's prerogative. He has no desire in calling the tops, in my opinion. But I want to say thank you for everybody for tuning in. This has been awesome. We'll have GRC back tomorrow. We're going to be getting updates around the golf tournament in Vegas. How is that actually going? What's going on? Going to cover RH Twitter space with Funding Jim right after the show. What's up with this?
Yeah, so he just called me. So Funding Jim has the co-founder of Netflix there. Richard Hart is going to join like this Twitter space, and they're going to talk about Ethereum, Pulse Chain, the potential Netflix documentary. Maybe there'll be some breaking news, since an official guy from Netflix is going to be there. So Jim Rat called me that pretty much when we go offline, he's getting ready right now. He's going to go live and cover the Twitter space.
Okay. Yeah. If you want us to stream that on both channels, go ahead. And if somebody has the information or has the ear there, they should ask about the proof of work versus proof of stake, right? Because we're going to get that preview of Pulse Chain in advance with Ethereum, right? With the Ethereum fork. So you can get the free copies of everything. And I'd be interested to hear what Richard Hart actually has to say about getting the copy, right? And if that copy is successful, then it would probably be helpful for Pulse. If it is not successful, I think this is going to cast doubt on Pulse Chain. Just my 2 cents on this. But don't forget to stay tuned for that show that's coming out shortly with GRC. Should be on for that live. And let's take us out of here with some DeFi proof. Talk to you soon, guys. Peace.
Farming with my stables in the decks. I'm holding IRA and it reflects. I'm sticking all this shit on Everest. And I'm balling ETH. Farming with my stables in the decks. I'm holding IRA and it reflects. I'm sticking all this shit on Everest. You see, the problem was these epochs. Now I'm printing daily, man, who need that? I check my APR on VFAT. And the regulation printing big stacks. I simple swapped it for some BNB. Took my shares and I made OP.